Hey guys, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, joined by Andrew Egger, author of Morning Shots. We're here tonight, Sunday night, 9:10 p.m. We're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk's memorial service. It was at the State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, which Andrew reminded me a couple seconds ago was home for the Arizona Cardinals. Packed house, overflowing crowd. It caps.
Say what you will about Turning Point USA. They put on a hell of an event. Very short notice. They quite the event.
It was incredibly well attended. All the Republican luminaries were there. Basically, the entire cabinet was there with House and Senate leadership too. Elon Musk was there. Actually, come to think of it, like weird, succession line issues potentially there with the speaker, the president, and the vice president, but that's not really worth discussing because there were a couple takeaways. One was really good, really moving and incredibly devastating speech from Erika Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow. And then the other was just a series of otherwise interesting, highly political, and then kind of borderline odd, if not fully odd speeches from some of the other luminaries. I want to start with the good. Because it was honestly a moving speech. Erika Kirk gets up there, and Andrew, I don't know how you felt, and certainly this is more your turf than mine. I am Jewish. This is not like my religion, but the way she sort of steeled herself, the way that she invoked what seemed to me a deep religious underpinning to her remarks, the way she talked at one point about forgiving the man who shot and killed and assassinated her husband, left her a widow and a single mother of two. I didn't have this. I would not have the strength for that. It was an incredible moment of grace. And, I think people should go and watch it.
Yeah. And I mean, as she was coming up to the podium, I mean, I'd been kind of watching this, thinking about whether I was going to write about this event for, the newsletter tomorrow. And she comes up to speak and immediately, in my mind, I've been okay, yeah, she's going to speak. She's spoken already once on this attack. But as she's coming up to the podium, it really struck me. I'm this is a live thing. She's up there in front of all of these people. This just happened. There's a reason, it's not that common for the immediately bereaved to speak at funerals. It's all so raw. And she was plainly so overcome with emotion. I was part of me was just get her out of there, how can you call on a person to do this? And then the longer she spoke, the more just me personally, my jaw was just kind of on the floor it was a powerful speech. And she talked a lot, and it was not particularly political.
We'll get to the politics, but yeah, that struck me too. It wasn't political. It was spiritual.
Erika Kirk has been in the public eye kind of for a long time. I mean, she's been sort of an influencer of sorts. Not quite along the same lines as Charlie Kirk, right? I mean, he has had his project that was both theological and political, obviously primarily political. That's the thing he was mostly known for. Even though he, talked more and more about his faith, especially toward, the last years of his life. Her project was, explicitly, religious all along. She's basically a Christian influencer, right? And so she's in this weird place now where she's been kind of thrust into his role. She's the new CEO of Turning Point USA, right? So that's a political thing. But that was not what she chose to talk about, during this speech. She chose to talk about a lot, just her comfort in her faith, in the wake of her husband's death. She took the opportunity to sort of exhort a lot of the young people in attendance, sort of along the lines of her faith, exhortation to be, to become Christian, obviously for one thing, but also just
for a second. Let's just listen to it.
That man. That young man. I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
All right, so look, like you said, there's the spirituality, the exhortations towards faith, forgiveness. It feels like a lifetime ago, but after the Dylan Roof shootings at Emmanuel Church down in Charleston, South Carolina, people might not remember this, but it was the family members of the victims who confronted Roof in some sort of court proceeding and looked him in the eye and said, "I forgive you." And we could play that too.
Victims' family spoke directly to Dylan Ruff over video conference. The daughter of 70-year-old Ethel Lance.
You took something very precious away from me. I would never talk to her ever again. I would never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you.
Alana Simmons spoke of her grandfather, Reverend Daniel Simmons.
Although my grandfather and the other victims died at the hands of hate, this is proof, and their legacies will live in love. So hate won't win.
Tywanza Sanders pleaded with the gunman to shoot him instead of his aunt.
We welcome you Wednesday night in our Bible study with open arms. You have killed some of the most beautifulest people that I know. Tywanza Sanders is my son, but Tywanza was my hero. Tywanza was my hero. But as we said in Bible study, we enjoyed you, but may God have mercy on you.
I don't know. It takes something extraordinary internally to do something like that. I couldn't imagine. And then it just, the other thing though about it, and you could speak to this, is that it came in the context of other speeches that it's hard to describe sort of the general theme of the evening. The Washington Post talked about kind of the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. Others sort of looked at the kind of overtly political elements of the speech. What stood out to you about the rest of the speeches beyond Erika Kirk?
Yeah, they were sort of on a spectrum, right? There were some people, plenty of people who were doing sort of the same thing that she was doing. Like Marco Rubio really stuck out to me insofar as at the very end of his speech, he kind of just did like a sort of evangelical preacher, sort of gospel account of just sort of we're all sinners, but there's this guy who came down from heaven and his name was Jesus. This is not his actual language. But basically telling the Christian gospel account in that way. And me as a former, campaign reporter who has seen a lot of this stuff deployed on the campaign trail. I'm kind of cynically all right, what's the political turn here? And then there wasn't one, right? That was actually just the end of his speech was he was just he wanted to make this sort of Christian gospel point, which again, I'm a Christian. I found it very powerful. There were a lot of kind of medium, kind of in between types. A very, very frequent refrain from J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, and a lot of these people was don't worry, Charlie, we've got it from here, very much kind of picking up the mantle and carrying on the political work. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's kind of the question's what's the plan? What mission are you going to be carrying forward? Right. We have a lot of opinions about what JD Vance and Pete Hegseth have been up to a lot.
But let's get to two. I want to get to two others. One was Tucker. I will start with Tucker. Tucker just kind of people interpreted this as a dog whistle, and I think it was. But basically sort of winking, it might have been the Jews. And we can listen to this. Let's hear what he says.
So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it, and they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I could just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem.
So yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know, kind of bordered on a little bit of a wink wink to me. So that was weird. But the real weird one was, well, we'll get to Trump later. The real weird one was Stephen Miller. Okay, I'm just going to read some lines from Stephen Miller. The first one, I don't want to laugh at it, but it was because it's dark. But he goes, I'm reminded of a famous expression. The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. So I never heard this. Had you heard this one before? This famous expression? Yeah. It's not famous. It's apparently a 2015 meme, an internet meme that some people have wrongly said originates with Genghis Khan. Also, I don't think he got it right. It's not the storm whispers to the warrior. It's the fate whispers to the warrior, but whatever. Stephen went for it. He then goes on from there. He says, an army has arisen. Those trying to incite violence against us. What do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness. You are jealousy. You are hatred. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. These are abridged quotes, but it was like, it was a little scary, honestly.
Stephen Miller, look, there has been an enormous outpouring of energy, just energy on the right in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Some of it, some small subset of it, has been like positive energy in some respect. I mean, like again, we were just talking about Erika Kirk. Like there's like a transcendence to that. Stephen Miller has more so than like anybody else in all of America, like come right out of the gate after this assassination with a plan. He's like, I'm going to take this energy and I'm going to channel it into this political project that I have that's all about destroying the left. And I think that's what we saw today, right? I mean, like
it's his life's work, and he's, going for it basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we've written about this stuff. We've talked about some of this stuff. He has said some really alarming and unnerving stuff just in the last couple of days about what they're planning and everything. But like something about him doing it in this moment at this funeral service, him couching it in this explicitly religious language. I mean, at one point he says, when Charlie Kirk was shot, the angels wept, but those tears have become a fire inside of us. And, like explicitly saying that like we are on the side of the angels. And then you just mentioned it a minute ago, our foes are these nothings. They're these vacancies, these emptinesses, this sort of grasping. Again, like not to continue to talk in religious terms, but like this is how, Christians talk about the concept of evil and the concept of sin, is that it's not like a substance. It's like an absence. It's a lack. It's a falling short.
I'll just say, like, and beyond the darkness of the speech itself, like he needs an editor. Like he needs an editor. Some of this stuff is just over the top and mixed metaphors everywhere.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Fire and the tears and the come on.
Yeah. As we're on our way to the camps, we'll be like, Steven, that was
it's a mixed metaphor.
No, but like, look, I'm kidding,
Steven.
I'm kidding, and I shouldn't be, because like again, like it's all very serious. Like the good stuff and the bad stuff is all really
Andrew,
serious here.
You
but
can't
like,
help a kid. You got it. That's how you get through.
I know, but like. This guy's really powerful, This is the policy guy for Donald Trump. And we'll talk about Donald Trump in a minute, but like even Donald Trump, he hits some of these same themes, but it's in like a very kind of goofy and like, the way that he does things, and he's the guy who's like going to like shake his fist and rant and rave and then get distracted by like, hanging new curtains in the Oval Office. Yeah. But like Stephen Miller is like, determined to use this moment to inaugurate a crackdown on his political opponents, the likes of which we've never seen. And like, we should talk about like, these things are totally in tension, right? I mean, like there's like two ways forward from this moment, like for the political right. And you could basically say Stephen Miller is like the mascot for one side here, and Erika Kirk is carrying the banner for the other side. Like how do you respond to this provocation? Do you respond in a spirit of sort of like forgiveness, where you are literally like praying for the soul of the person who did this? I mean, like we kind of glossed over that. That's insane. Like, I could not believe that she did that. And like, yes, it's happened before. Like, yes, it's like, I couldn't believe it when they did it in the wake of the Charleston shooting either. Like, that is an unbelievable transcendent.
No, I couldn't do it. But I guess I'm not, it's not pushback, but I think like, it doesn't seem to me that there's much tension here, to be honest. Like, yes, Erika Kirk is saying this and we'll see what happens. But like pretty much every other speaker either skirted the idea or was, and I'm not every speaker. I should say the people who like really, really, really like have the power were very clear that they want to go for it. And that brings us to Trump. And I just think it's worth, let's go back to Charleston for a second, because again, history is a good guide here. Obama went down to Charleston after the shooting and he spoke at the church. Not at the church. He spoke at the memorial for the church, I should say. And he used the idea of those family members saying they forgave Dylann Roof as sort of an illustration of grace that everyone should strive for. And he sort of used a speech built around what it means to be driven by grace in a moment of incredible grief and challenge. And then, of course, he sang quite famously Amazing Grace. Donald Trump did not do that. I mean, and it's not in Donald Trump. No one expected Donald Trump to do that, of course, because Donald Trump's not like that. It's a different person. And people can say, well, Obama was, hyper partisan and he divided the country, whatever. But in these moments, Obama did not
summit,
do that. He did do the beer summit. He said something about Trayvon Martin once that got people very mad. But in these moments, this is not what Obama was very conciliatory and tried to bring people together. Donald Trump, in his speech, said this.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erika. But now Erika can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
So look, I mean, he's, like you said, he says it with like this kind of tongue-in-cheek, ha, 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 ha. I'm going for an applause line. But he says it enough that at this point, no one should consider this a joke. It's how he feels. Like, this is what he is. He wants to go for it. There's a body of evidence to suggest he has no desire to bring the country together in this moment. He's not even pretending to try.
And especially when you just like look at the way that Donald Trump always delivers speeches. I mean, this is his constant cadence. It's like, he'll read whatever you have on the prompter.
And
he will
on.
do it in this unbelievable monotone. It's like the most phoned in thing you've ever seen. And then he'll break off of that to tell you how he really feels about this, that, or the other things. That was this here, right? It's like that's the one thing he said in the entire clip that is like him. I'm done with the teleprompter.
I'm going to actually have my id come out now. Yeah,
yes,
no,
100%.
So that's Trump. And I think, so while I was incredibly moving to see Erika Kirk say what she said, and honestly, it's been really difficult to watch this entire thing play out over the past 10 days. You feel horrible for the family. And you can tell even in these moments where you see these reactions that you might not even, might find a little bit off-putting from the right. You can tell it's from a place where they're like deeply hurt, right? But then you have someone like Trump and Stephen Miller who are like, we're just going to go for it. And we don't care about bringing the country together. We care about defeating lefties. And that's a scary thought. And it's scary to see it come out in an event that is otherwise meant to memorialize someone and to, in theory, pursue the type of unity and forgiveness that his own wife says he embodied.
These are the people who are wielding the power and they have a plan to do that, right? And I don't think anybody should expect, we're all going to wake up tomorrow morning and they'll have called off the dogs of this project. I mean, all the other news that's come out this weekend of them just explicitly going after political opponents in a bunch of different ways, right? All that being said,
we should do a video later on the DOJ weekend. That's just crazy.
There'll be
finish
in theory, Bill's writing about that for tomorrow, so everyone can read about it in theory in Morning Shots, right? But let me just say one thing, which is that, like, yes, these are the guys who wield the power, but I do not think it would be quite correct to just like wave off the Erika Kirk thing, right? I mean, like, this is okay. It cuts against so much of what we have been hearing out of the political right. I mean, it even kind of cuts against her own, like, not cuts against is not quite the right word, but like, you know, she spoke a few days ago, like 2 days after the killing or something like that. And, you know, sounded a much more strident kind of political note, right? I mean, in terms of like echoing the rhetoric of sort of Stephen Miller and these guys about kind of like the corporate responsibility of, I don't want to put words in her mouth. I might be overstating that a little in my recollection, but like there was enough of that there that the contrast was really striking to me. And I just think like, look, she's a person who has inherited this unbelievably large public mantle from Charlie Kirk, who was like a giant figure on the contemporary right, especially online, especially among young people. And like, she's gonna carry on his political work in some respects. And it just seemed like it would not have been like a surprise for her to get up and like speak in that exact same vein. Like who in all of America could you fault for doing that less than her in this moment, right? Like some guy just shot her husband, like left her kids fatherless, left her a widow. Less than 2 weeks ago. That just happened. And like, she talked about like being at the morgue and having to like, you know, identify his corpse and like just unbelievable stuff. And then for her to like go from that to like having to like physically steel herself to say, and I forgive him because that's what my faith calls for me to do. It's what Charlie would have wanted me to do. And like, we should all pray for him, and you can't respond to hate with hate. You have to respond with love. That's the gospel. I mean, that's not something to just sort of like be like, okay, Erika, you don't wield the real power. You know what I mean? Like
I wasn't saying that, but
no. I'm not responding. I'm not like scolding you. I'm like talking about my own kind of like, I just couldn't believe that. And I, like you said it right at the beginning. It was a real moment of grace. And I'm very grateful to her that she could somehow do that.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you watching this. Appreciate you doing this. To those who are watching us, appreciate that too. We do appreciate the viewership and the subscription. So, hey, subscribe to the feed. We'll talk to you later, okay? Later, bud.